Hi everyone. No, I didn't pass away. Life just kind of lifed, and now we're here. A couple months later, I apologize so much for my absence, but I'm coming here today to hopefully talk to you and help you deal with the problem that I'm seeing been asked a lot lately, which is how do I deal with pressure? How do I deal with someone just running up the board at GSC the Cults and just punching me in the face, right? So hopefully today's video, it's going to be real quick, but we can just go over the finer points and details of everything that needs to happen, or you can at least do to help make your life a little bit easier, right? So let's go ahead and get right into it. Imaginary technique, no intro. I hope that was as cringe as I fucking wanted it to be. So, hi everyone, my name is Nexos Floof. I am one of the top rated GSC players in the world, and I am here today to talk to you a little bit about some tactics that can essentially delay the game long enough for you to be able to play it, right? Now, this advice might not be as necessary for something like Brood Surge, Xenocreed, more melee variants of Final Day, but for our more shooting variants like Host of Ascension with Swarm Host, even though you can play that detachment as a very melee heavy detachment, for those shooting variants we can get rushed down pretty easily, and there can just be times where our opponents go, I'm just not going to respect you and I'm just going to run at you. Well, how do we deal with that? I've found a good amount of tools that I like to use in my games that have earned me a couple wins, and I want to share those with you today, right? So we're going to be going over this stuff in TTS. Just once again, a quick reminder, I am in a one-bedroom apartment. There is no way for me to have like a setup to where I show you on a table or anything fancy like that. It is just easier to do this through this. So I know some people don't like TTS, but it is, as a tool, my preferred way to show these kind of tactics. And it's in depth and it's easy to show measurements very precisely, right? So for today's thing, I originally was going to do it to where I had two different scenarios cooked up, to where I had a friend and I essentially roll off for deployment. He picked two pressure armies that he thought could be good into GSC, or shows just a pure I want to run at you kind of list, right? And we rolled off for deployment, and I'm going to show you the deployment in which I actually lost Defender and he had some infiltrates, and then we're going to talk about 3 to 4 different things that are going on with this that hopefully I can, use to show you and help you along the way of like, how do you not die? How do you not lose the game, right? So let's get into it. So pop it in here. World Eaters deployment. They got first Defender and they went ahead and threw some Goremongers in here. I was up next, and we're going to talk about this deployment right here. There's a bit of interaction that is pretty obvious when you know what's going on here, but just to point it out. So the scouts rule is very important for these chaos spawn. They naturally move 10, I want to say, and then they can also advance to charge. So they can go up to 16 and then charge, right? And that's pretty brutal. But also what makes it even harder for us to deal with is that they scout 8. So they move 8, or they can scout 8, then they move 10, and then they can advance, and then they can charge. So effectively, these guys can move 24 inches if you get a big enough advance and then charge, right? And then they just go wee and hop into this stuff. Now, looking at my opponent and how they have deployed, and after talking with him earlier, either one of two things is going to happen on this side, right? He put these Goremongers here to block, to protect his scouts. And we'll talk about how that protects in a second. But also with the rest of the deployment, he played a little bit safe, in my opinion, maybe a little bit too safe. One of these two guys has to go here to hold this objective, right? So both of these aren't going in here. More than likely what's happening is either the spawn are going here, or the Goremongers are going here and the spawn are going up to cause chaos, right? So he has protected this side. I now realize, hey, my opponent can fully go up this part of the board if they need to. There's a world to where I can drop some pures right here, but instead I figured this half of the board is more important, and I drop these pure strains right here. So for scouts, A unit cannot scout within 9 inches of another unit, and infiltrators cannot be deployed more than 9 or less than 9 inches away from your deployment line. So how this effectively works out is that these spawn right here because they're on the line, and these guys are intended to be 9 inches away from the line itself, is that they can't get any initial movement forward, right? They can't move the 9 inches this way. The only thing that they could do if they wanted to was, why am I coloring in the naughty color? There we go, cool. Is the only way that they can get any kind of momentum from the scouts isn't by going this way. They can only shift left or right. And that's not necessarily like the biggest advantage that they're going to have, right? So these guys can't scout and move 9 inches this way. They can only scout if they want to and go effectively around this way. Or we can go 8 this way here. Let's go ahead and, if they want to, they can go like right here, which, if you'll see, is like a 1/4 inch up in front, right? So now I have turned an 8 inch walking towards me to 1/2 inch. I have denied them 7.5 inches of movement by simply putting these guys here. As well, if they do decide to go forward, unless they're charging over here, in which I will have sight lines to them on both sides, right? They're going to be out in the middle of nowhere. To be in contact with this boy, someone has to be over here. There's no way for them to consolidate back onto this point. In all cases, they will be out and be able to be shot, right? Which is what I want. It's what I want to do. Now, if they're over here, they absolutely could use a consolidation move to get onto the point, but we have this covered with an amount of guns that we've had deployed on the ground. So by setting these 5 pure strains down, I've effectively made a little bit of a shield for this part of the board, right? At least to buy me a turn to where Chaos Spawn can't move up their 8 and then move 10 and get an advance and basically be right here and charge whatever they want and hold me in my deployment zone, right? Now, there is totally a world to where I can take some pure strains and put them over here, and then I make a weird 9-inch bubble like in this area, but my opponent still has this free scout, right? That's why they protected it. He can still put the Chaos Spawn anywhere he wants in here, so there's no real value in doing this. Now, with that being said, I'm doing something that is going to be very prevalent in all of GSC. I am sacrificing this unit. I am absolutely sacrificing this unit. I am setting them here going, you are dead. There is no way you make it to round 2. You are going to die, right? Now, we live in, they're living in a spot to where only 2 things are going to happen. Either my opponent goes first and these guys die right here. There is no world to where they live. They are just gone. Or I go first. I walk them up, stop even more movement. I do not charge, and I pass the turn. That stops this boy from getting out more. That stops these guys from effectively getting anywhere in here unless they want to go over into this area, right? In which case they're still standing out in the middle of nowhere. They totally could do it to where like Spawn move up and then like the Slaughterbound or honestly just the Forge Fiend shooting should be more than enough to kill them, right? So it stops them once again from going this way, which is what I want, right? We've effectively made it to where this area is a bit more protected. I can walk these neophytes out right here, make it to where I'm in a little bit of a chain this way, and boom, we have secured that this area will be protected, right? Another thing as well is if those Chaos Spawn do move up, this Saboteur is in a position to where I can hop over here, see over here to grenade, or pop out here to grenade if the Chaos Spawn ended being up right here, like by charging the Pure Strains. She can assist in some way, as well as more than likely on my turn moving up to here and just allowing her mine to just continue to be annoying. Could even put her up here. That way if my opponent wants to walk onto the mid board, it's very difficult for them, right? Or at least they're going to be taking an amount of mortals to the face. Now, we've talked about infiltrators. Infiltrators blocking your opponent's scout and also just being a forward nuisance to deal with. In these kinds of lists, I always prefer going first because that allows me to push my lines up have my sacrificial units give me even more value, right? Touch some things. If everything's in transports, then I just actually do have them charge and hold on to things, and that's great. Let's also talk about the most it's probably the most important thing, and what we should be going over first is you need to have more things deployed than might seem necessary. Hosts of Ascension and other shooting platforms sure will give your guns some type of benefit, right? The most you're getting is from Hosts of Ascension, which is sustained hits and ignores cover. Well, every time I run Ridge Runners, I'm running them with Survey Augers to strip cover. So I can do that whenever I want. It's redundancy that I've built into the list, helps my indirect, but also will allow me to deploy more things on the board. The other thing as well is understanding where most of our damage lies. Sustained hits 1 is a very good ability to have. Absolutely, it pushes damage through. But in a game where most things are T4 and above, and half of the guns we have in this unit are strength 3, getting another hit to wound on 5s isn't necessarily nearly as good as just having lethal hits, right? The majority of our damage is lethals. That's our bread and butter, right? So while having sustained is certainly a great thing to do, don't think it's the only thing that makes you deal damage in Genestealer cults, right? We're doing it by layering different buffs. I like to start with at least 2 Neophyte squads down. I've been playing around a lot more with having 60 Neophytes deployed, to where it's probably like an Unled Man and 2 of the Benefactus squads. Essentially, if your opponent's going to run at you, if you're playing into a melee army, you need to have more guns down on the board so your opponent doesn't just get free reign to walk up the board however they want, right? So let's talk about that and go straight into an example, right? Right here, you see I have a Benefactus unit. I have them a little bit protected. I think I kind of overdid it or did it very weird here with the Goremongers. It was just the whole thing, but I have it to where all of my guns are on this piece of terrain, right? And they can pop out on this side of the wall, and that gives me a sight line down here, and that gives me a sight line over here, right? To where all of my big stuff can go boom or bam. I have an unled squad here. There actually is a very big argument to having 2 led squads down and having this one up just to like screen and like a 6-inch deep strike to just be annoying, right? But I figured a Forge Fiend or 2 was going to go in here, so I wanted something that, like, if they were getting shot by possibly 2 Forge Fiends, I wasn't just going to lose a Benefactus squad. So I chose the unled one because with the healthy advance here, we could get some guys onto this point, hide from at least one of the guns or majority of the guns, trail over here, and boom, bam, hey, we sticky this point. It's also in a world where if my opponent just, like, sets the Chaos Spawn in here after killing these Pure Strains, I can just walk the unit out and have a good amount of guns go into them. Even though they're not lead, you know, seismic cannons, heavy stubbers, Webbers, flamers, it's all just dice that I'm throwing at my opponent to try and kill these units, right? So I am going to be taxing him for just playing sloppy, right? So it makes sure that he has to respect this right now, because even the 8-bound, the Chaos Spawn, it's all stuff that can and will die to just a mass amount of AP one-shots. So why take that damage when you don't need to, right? So we have this area secure with our Pure Strains, and then a very non-committal Neophyte squad to push up here, as well as some Reducti, just to be able to help push this. And then over here, once again, my opponent kind of had to put the Rhino back a little bit, just because the threat of having Neophytes pop out, or honestly, I think he was worried about having the Pure Strains being able to get it if it was too close, but I digress. I don't think it needed to be back here, but oh well. Anything my opponent sets onto here, outside of the Chaos Spawn or the Goremongers, more than likely I'm going to be able to get an angle at and be able to shoot, right? Boom, bam, we can see right here that Benny herself can see right there. Cool, great, fantastic. I am ensuring that even if my opponent plays a little on the defensive side, now there's probably worlds where they go like that and they're good, right? But if they just straight up move up the board and are right here, these walk out, this is dead. gone, right? These guys, I don't even need to like look at them. Indirect will handle these guys. I'm not even worried about it. Anything else, like a Hellbrute walking out or anything like that, that's not killing a neophyte squad and shooting, right? That's not doing absolutely anything. So I can go ahead and threaten it with 4 las cannons to the face at AP4 with lethals, possibly crit 5 lethals, a bunch of seismic shots, a bunch of autogun shots, right? I am saying, hey, I'm not gonna do the most damage in the world, but this damage swings pretty hard, and if it swings in the wrong direction for you, you just lose a unit for free, right? Because you didn't respect what I could do in this detachment. So using neophytes on the board isn't a loss in like efficiency or optimization or anything like that. It is something to where I've talked about this in other videos. 40k isn't a game just about trading up in numbers. It is also about just trading up in board state and resources and threat projection, and there's so many different things going on in the game when you get at a deeper level that sometimes being like, yeah, my unit's not going to get every buff under the sun, but actually in host I'm still able to give it +1 AP. I'm still able to give it ignores cover. It still has lethals. I can still give crit 5s. The only thing I'm losing out on here is sustained hits. This is still a very lethal unit, right? So it's something your opponent needs to respect. With that, now let's go ahead and talk about some good scenarios to where, like, say this is Emperor's Children, right? Or any army that has like a scout rhino, right? They put this boy up to here, or maybe even they go first. Goremongers go do something. They're doing whatever. Maybe they decide, ooh, we'll have them hold this point. It'll be great. And then this rhino will go ahead and put right here. What am I going to do with this rhino, right? He's got threats right here to where if I go ahead and charge it, any kind of decent charge will make it to where this Hellbrute can go ahead and heroic into it, and they'll kill whatever charges it, right? So I don't want to charge this thing. What can I do? Well, there's these funny little pure strains here, and these guys, of course, don't have to be here in any other game or anything like that, any other deployment. I think I did kind of misdeploy there. We can set them like behind this terrain right here, or maybe they're in this little pocket over here. But essentially their goal and what they're going to try and do is they are going to go ahead and move block to the best of their ability, right? What we can do is with a half decent advance, make it to where we go something like boom, bam, bam. Right now, this is just with an 11. Obviously, with something like if you do hit that big 6 or anything like that, or you're in just a more aggressive position, like imagine I was the one that got defender and like put these guys behind here. There's totally a world to where that exists. But essentially all I'm trying to do is I'm trying to make a line. Now, I absolutely could go for a charge here if I wanted to and need some stuff. But what I'm effectively trying to do is body block my opponent. They can't get through here. To get to my stuff, they would have to go around, right? They have to go through these angles. They're losing movement because they can't go this direction, right? They can't just drop 3 right here, move forward their 6, and then go and charge me. They have to drop 3 over here. They have to move 2 and then move over here and then go and charge this way. And this distance right here, this big old block, any amount of distance that you're getting is fantastic. And even actually, as we can see right here, we got a saboteur that we could set right here. If they go this way, they're taking mortals. They're losing 2 to 3 guys on the mortals. That's going to suck for them, right? So, hey, maybe they have to go over here, but it's even longer to get around this way. And it's a whole fucking ordeal for them, right? Then as well, I'm making it to where, hey, if you charge this squad, unless you all somehow get 10 berserkers to wrap around this one pure strain gene stealer and are able to hide them perfectly, you're going to be out in the middle of nowhere, right? These 10 berserkers are just going to be right here, and then neophytes can go, hello, I would like to shoot you, and go pew 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 and blow you up, right? You are, like we talked about earlier, using your using your resources to body block, aggressively move up the board, and know that these 5 mans that you have are going to die. They are going to sacrifice themselves, but in any way that you can, you are going to do your best to use those bodies and deaths to buy yourself time, to buy yourself resources, and to buy yourselves activations, right? Having your guys need to be shot and killed in a way that pulls your opponent out of cover, and being able to be shot by these units that you have deployed and have out is going to be fantastic, and it's really what you're looking for, right? With that being said, the only other thing I would want to talk about, I believe, is just like, I think it's pretty prevalent right now for things like knights. We did have a deployment off against knights, but yeah, I'll load that up real quick. Now, I've talked about this in the string video to where it's good to block out movements of these boys, but let's talk about how we really effectively can do that, right? Carnivores, I want to say oh boy, oh man, I always forget this. I want to say they move 12, right? So these boys, these little carnivores right here that move 14 can go right here, right? That's great. That's fantastic. I love that for them. If we are in a position to where, hey, we go first, we can move these guys up, and I'm just going to give them a 9, right? And I'm going to put them up. They're 9. We have these guys moving up. Now, this carnivore right here, if you'll notice, he goes to move his 14, but he can't actually. He can't do that because he's not ending outside of an inch. In fact, to end outside of an inch of my guys, it's looking like he'd need about a 3 on the advance, right? To be here, and now he's just 1.1 out. So he needs a 3 up and Knights of Shade, or Tear Shades or whatever it is, to be able to get over my guys and body block me, right? Now, there's also a thing right here to where we have this extra little funny guy right here. We can just go, boop, right there. And you want to know what that's done for us? Made it to where this guy, no matter where he goes, even unless he rolls that 6, and even then, let's try and put him 20 away, 0.9. Even if this carnivore gets a 6 on the advance, we have stopped him from being able to be right here, right? So that's fantastic. Now, what does that do? So, 14. Boop. Cool. We've taken about 4.5 inches of movement away from him. Now, you might think, oh, but he's still able to charge you and get onto the point. Yeah, totally. Absolutely. That's fine. However, he's still having to do, he's not able to get over here, charge me this way, and be even deeper into my lines, right? We have stopped effectively 9 inches of extra movement. Is it the greatest thing in the world? No, but it's simple, and it'll buy you any amount of distance that you might need at the time. So if you want to block out big vehicles like this, you can always measure the base. I believe these guys, just doing a quick thing right here because I can't do it like this, but I believe these are about 3.5 inches. So if I am just, let's say 4.5, right? Let's say 4.4 from this wall. There is no point in this area right here to where this knight can fit, right? Let's just say I do something like this, where I have my boys in this line. There is no place to where, even if the carnivore was right here, there's no point that he can land on this point, because he will always be within an inch of my pure strains, right? So essentially what you can do if you want to block out a vehicle from moving up a lane, you can always absolutely set up the wall for sure. But at the same time, you can just use your bodies and just say, hey, actually, you can't be within engagement range here, so you got to be all the way back here, right? And you can, just by measuring whatever the width of their base is, plus just under an inch, that's how far you need to be away from the wall. No one can move up. It's great. Now, like saying earlier, you may not want to do this line portion right here specifically, because anyone with a pulse will go, okay, I'm gonna sit right here. Anyways, I rolled a charge. Oh, did I get a 9? Cool, I'm gonna be over here, right? They can still fit their base in. This trick only works in the movement phase, so it is good to still be able to physically block your opponent, right? So those are my 3 tips that I would recommend anyone try and use in practice. Essentially just using your infiltrators aggressively, forward deploying as confidently as you feel, and then understanding that your units need to be sacrificed to buy you that time. So use that sacrifice to not only buy you time, but try and put your opponent in positions to where it's still disadvantageous for them to be, right? They can move up the board, but try and influence it enough to where they aren't going where they want to be, they're going where you tell them to be, right? You might not always be in the position to do that. Sometimes, you know, you're only taking a couple inches of movement off of them, but it's still something, right? And then when you are in those scenarios to where you are able to say, no, you're going to be right here where I tell you to, then you can plan your next turn, maybe your next 2 turns around that, and you have control over the game. And in those scenarios, you should be winning, right? So I hope this helps. Apologies for being gone for so long. I will be doing more. I got a job. All right. I started working 40 hours a week, and then just a whole lot of stuff, and I'm tired. Yeah. Capitalism sucks. Anyways, I hope you all enjoyed. Please let me know if you liked all this stuff, if you found it helpful, any of all that jazz. In the comments down below. Leave a like, subscribe, all that fun YouTuber stuff. I'm a big YouTuber person now. How wonderful. I'm not, but as well, we have a league going on in the Discord that I'm running, the Hive City Havocs League. If you would like to practice GSC mirrors, that's basically all that we're doing. We've got like 16 signups right now. It's going to be over the course of a couple, I want to say 4 rounds that last 2 weeks. And yeah, you get to play against me, other members of the community, learn and grow as a player. If you want to do that, go ahead and join the Discord. Description down in the description below. Or the link is down in the description, but you know what I mean. And yeah, once again, if you want to support me, consider donating to the coffee. I really appreciate it. If you would like a little bit more out of your donations, I do offer coaching, as well as, yeah, it's basically it. And yeah, I hope you all have a lovely time, and I will talk to you guys in the next video. Goodbye. Imaginary technique. Hollow outro. I haven't even been watching JJK lately. I don't know why I'm on that.